Hello, recruit, and welcome to Astroneer Academy 101, Simulating the Mission. We hope you enjoyed the orientation for Astroneer Academy, and we look forward to the coming months as we strive to bring you the most definitive source of information to guarantee success in your mission as an Astroneer. We kick things off today by dropping into major spoiler territory, so brace yourselves. Everything that you see, everything that you hear, every object you interact with, every planet and moon that you travel to, none of it is real. It is, in fact, all part of a large virtual training program. The good news is this means your margin for error is greater, as there is very little in the way of permanent consequences if you make a mistake. The bad news is, well, I don't really know how to say this, but we're all stuck in this simulation. We will discuss how this all came to be in a much later course, but suffice to say, Exodynamics has not yet found a way to rescue us from this virtual state. I suppose this situation was always readily apparent, with numerous telltale signs all pointing to the fact that we are in a simulation. We begin our adventures at a start screen, and the last time I checked, reality did not have a start screen allowing us to choose a previous adventure or begin a new one. Reality also does not seem to come with helpful tools such as the Astropedia. And it is that very tool that we begin with today. You can access the Astropedia via the rocket ship icon near the top of the menu. For reasons that go beyond the scope of our discussion today, Exodynamics has chosen a control scheme that dates all the way back to the late 20th century and into the early 21st century. That seems odd given that we know it's currently the 25th century and we're living in the intergalactic age of discovery. But no matter. You can select the Astropedia icon by clicking on it with a mouse, or if you're using a controller from the 21st century, using shoulder buttons to navigate to the icon. Once you have selected the Astropedia, you will find several very helpful items, but for now we only need to investigate Astroneer Basics. Selecting that option reveals 6 pages of information ranging from walking, perspective control, and picking things up, all the way through inventory management and taking damage. The Astropedia is also a bit meta as it refers to itself on the second page of Astroneer Basics. For our discussion today, please take a moment to familiarize yourself with information in the Astroneer Basics section. Go ahead, do it now, I'll wait. Okay, good. Now that you are armed with the knowledge of incredibly advanced topics such as walking around a bit and basic interaction, it is time for us to exit the Astropedia and head back to the main menu to begin our adventure. With the Astropedia closed, select the single Astroneer icon near the top of the menu. For now, we want to begin a new adventure. We will cover creative mode and other items that may appear in this menu at a later date. Select Start a New Adventure, get ready to launch from the Long Range Exploration Vehicle, or LREV, and prepare for your mission to begin. By the way, this launch animation is a rather clever way for Exodynamics to hide a loading screen for the simulation, isn't it? Before we learned that we were trapped in a simulation, we all just thought we were actually launching from a really cool ship to make Plantefall. But nope, it's a cleverly hidden loading screen that is procedurally generating an entire solar system. Neat. Landing on Silva immediately satisfies the requirements for our first mission, Plantefall. But before we can talk about missions, you have to get out of the dropship. So choose Exit and watch as your dropship converts into your starting shelter and a landing pad. You are able to re-enter the shelter at any time, and doing so will conveniently save your progress in the simulation. But the shelter is far more than an oversized save point. It also provides oxygen and power, and we'll get to each of those in due time. So you have a shelter and a landing pad. What do you do now? The broad answer to that question is anything you want. But if you need help focusing, Exodynamics has given you missions to complete. These missions can guide you through the entirety of your adventure in the simulation, giving you new tasks to complete and providing rewards for completing them. These rewards may be useful items, resources, or they may provide research bytes that will be useful in unlocking items in the research catalog. It is important to remember, however, that these missions are just there to help guide you through your adventure. You can ignore the missions altogether if you wish. You can start some and then come back to them later, or complete some and ignore others, or any combination you desire. Your adventure as an Astroneer is not dictated by the missions, so don't let their presence make you feel obligated to complete them. Remember, as an Astroneer, there is not one single right way to do things. If you're having fun, then you are doing it right. But for the purposes of Astroneer Academy, we are going to let the missions help guide us. You already saw a notification that you have completed the Plantefall mission, so I want to turn your attention to the mission log. You might have already noticed the checkmark icon hovering over the control panel on the landing pad. That is a visual indicator that you have completed the mission and there are mission rewards to claim. Opening that control panel reveals the mission log. So let's dive into the mission log. The Astropedia provides a very brief introduction to missions, but doesn't go into much detail. So we are going to spend the next few minutes getting familiar with missions and the mission log. The mission log control panel can be found on the landing pad at your starting shelter, as well as on landing pads that you will eventually create. In later courses, you will be introduced to additional structures that contain mission logs as well. Now, all of the mission logs are synced, so you don't need to worry that one mission log will contain information not found on others. The mission log information screen is broken down into 3 main sections. The left half provides a list of all missions and will continue to grow as you make progress through your adventure. The top right of the mission log contains details about the selected mission and includes a visual tracker for your progress. You can see that Arrived on Silva is marked as completed for the Plantefall mission, but all mission objectives for Astroneering Basics remain incomplete. The bottom right portion of the mission log control panel provides information for mission completion rewards. To navigate through each section of the mission log, you can use the big blue buttons at the bottom of the mission log control panel. Clicking on each will perform an action within the mission log. But you can also simply use D-pad or the left stick of a controller or the arrow keys on your keyboard to navigate. For those of you using mouse and keyboard, you can also just point and click with your mouse to select a mission. You may have noticed that some mission details and rewards tend to scroll past their available display space on the mission log screen. To be able to read all of this information, simply press right on your D-pad or press the right arrow key on your keyboard, and that will lock the mission log list to a particular mission. This will allow you to scroll through the details and mission rewards sections. When you're ready to resume scrolling through the mission list, simply press left on your D-pad or press the left arrow on your keyboard. As I mentioned just a moment ago, additional missions will appear in the mission log as you make progress in your adventure. As each of these sections in the mission log grows longer, you may find them becoming a bit cumbersome. Thankfully, you can collapse each section by simply using the left arrow key on your keyboard or clicking left on your D-pad. If you wish to view them again, simply scroll to the collapse section and press to the right. You can also track any of the active missions. To do so, simply select the mission you wish to track from the list of active missions and activate the big green button. The mission you selected will move to the top of the missions list and appear in a new category, Tracked. By having them at the top of the list, you can quickly access them in the mission log anytime you want to check on your progress, or if you just need a reminder of the mission's objectives. You can track several missions at once if you wish. You can also open the mission log at any time from your action wheel. You do know how to access the action wheel, right? If not, open up your Astropedia and select Astroneer Basics. You'll find instructions for opening your action wheel on the second page. The mission log in the action wheel will allow you to double check your current objectives for active missions and even claim mission rewards that award bytes and research catalog schematics for completion. You will need a landing pad mission log to claim all physical mission rewards, however. The action wheel also contains your compass and the research catalog, but we'll cover those in later courses. There is one other simple way to open the mission log. First, open your backpack. Then click on the yellow handle on the right side of your backpack. That will open the mission log, allowing you to view current missions and even claim bytes from mission rewards. At this point, I think I've spent enough time talking about the mission log from an academic perspective, so let's collect your first rewards. With the Plantefall mission selected, you can open the cover over the green button at the bottom by clicking on it, and then collect your rewards by clicking the green button. Of course, this is the 25th century, so we have redundant controls and you don't actually need to click the big green button. You can hit enter on a keyboard once to open the cover and a second time to select the button and claim your rewards. A small printer and a packaged oxygenator drop down from somewhere. Both of those items are used for our next mission, Astroneering Basics, so let's get that oxygenator unpacked and installed, then connect the printer. You will find a medium storage slot, also known as a tier 2 storage slot, on the side of your starting shelter. Interact with the packaged oxygenator to unpack it, which will trigger a mission progress notification at the bottom right of the simulation. Then place the oxygenator on that medium storage slot to install it. It'll click into place when you have it in the right spot, and you will see a notification that it is installed. Now, let's get that printer connected. You'll see a red cable just above a yellow bar on the lower section on both the front and the back of the small printer. Simply grab one of the cable plugs to begin extending it, then connect it to one of the cable plugs you see on your shelter. Congratulations! You just completed your first hands-on mission. And this simple mission actually introduced you to two very important things you will need as an astroneer: oxygen and power. We'll talk more about power in upcoming courses, so for now, let's cover oxygen. Despite the fact that astroneers are made of pudding, yeah, you heard me, pudding. We'll talk about that much later. But despite this fact, we still require oxygen. When you installed the oxygenator on the starting shelter, you may have noticed a blue tether appeared connecting you to the shelter. If you walk away from the shelter a bit, you'll see and hear that tether disconnect, and when you walk back, you will see and hear it reconnect. While you're disconnected from that oxygen tether, take a look at the bright blue bar at the top of your backpack. That is an oxygen tank, and it provides a clear visual indication of how much oxygen you have available. The moment you disconnect from the oxygen tether, your oxygen tank begins to empty. The oxygen tank can store up to 72 seconds of oxygen, though you will consume oxygen at a faster rate if you're sprinting versus walking or just idly standing about. When your oxygen levels drop to 50% and 25%, audio-visual indicators will pop up over your head reminding you that you kinda sorta need oxygen to stay alive. As the oxygen tank approaches empty, you'll hear your breathing become a bit strained. If you let the oxygen tank empty completely, an audio-visual indicator appears to let you know that you're beginning to suffocate. You will become aware of the sound of your own heartbeat, which becomes faster and faster the longer you go without oxygen, and you begin to suffer damage. And you'll also find that your movement slows down as you are suffocating. If you are unable to reach a source of oxygen quickly enough, you'll suffocate. But don't worry, this is a simulation after all. Your body will conveniently be reprinted in the shelter, and you can continue your journey. With such a small oxygen tank, it may seem as though you will not be able to venture too far from your shelter. Thankfully, Exodynamics has thought of that. While there are several different ways to extend your oxygen supply, today we are going to focus on the simplest: tethers. And wouldn't you know it, the mission you just completed provides a pack of these tethers as a reward, along with 500 research bytes. So claim your reward, pick up the tethers, and store them in your backpack. And if you aren't certain how to store items in your backpack, well, you weren't paying attention when I asked you to review Astroneer Basics in the Astropedia. It's right there, at the bottom of the very first page in that section. While you're reviewing how to store items in your backpack, head over to the 5th page of that section to learn how to drop tethers to create an oxygen network. At this point, we should probably take a break from talking about oxygen and introduce you to the rest of your backpack. Your backpack has several different parts, so let's take a look at each one. We have already identified the oxygen tank at the top, so let's move on to the battery in the middle. It's the big yellow thing with 10 segments. We will talk more about the backpack battery in Astroneer Academy 104, so for now, you simply need to know that your backpack can store power, and that power is used to operate various items you can attach to your backpack and terrain tool. The small tier 1 slots located on each shoulder of your backpack are widget slots. While they can be used as extra storage, widget slots are special attachment points that allow you to toggle items that are attached to those slots. You can learn how to activate these widget slots by once again opening the Astropedia and selecting the Astroneer Basics section and heading to page 3. The panels on the far right will indicate how you activate items carried in those widget slots. Some examples of useful items that you can carry in a widget slot include a work light that you can toggle on and off, a small generator that you can toggle off and on is needed to provide power to your backpack, or you could carry a small horn there and trigger that horn whenever you feel like it, because horns are awesome. Nearly any small Tier 1 object that you can activate yourself can be placed in and activated by a widget slot. Moving on, the main portion of your backpack consists of 8 small Tier 1 storage slots. You can carry anything you want in your backpack, so long as it fits in one of those small storage slots. On the left, you can see the handle of the research catalog, which we will cover in a later course. To the right of your backpack is your terrain tool, which features 3 additional small slots. While these 3 slots can be used as storage, they are intended to carry terrain tool augments that enhance the operation of your terrain tool. We'll talk more about these augments in Astroneer Academy 103. At the very bottom of your backpack is your backpack printer. The slot on the left of the printer will hold a resource that is currently needed by the printer, but as you cycle through the items you can print on your backpack printer, it will automatically move a resource to your backpack and replace it with the resource that is needed to print the selected item if you are carrying that resource in your backpack. We will talk more about all printers in Astroneer Academy 105, but if you want a quick introduction to how the backpack printer works, check out the 5th page of Astroneer Basics in the Astropedia. By the way, that backpack printer slot can also provide an extra slot for storage. Simply select an item from your backpack printer that requires the resource you wish to collect, and that resource can now be stored in the backpack printer slot. Having even a single extra storage slot to carry resources can come in handy. With that quick introduction to your backpack complete, let's move on to our discussion of oxygen. As mentioned in the Astropedia, shelters and vehicles can supply oxygen to Tethers, but only if they are equipped with an oxygenator. Likewise, platforms that you create can also supply oxygen, but they too must be connected to a shelter, vehicle, or another platform that has an oxygenator installed. And that brings us to a pro tip, first shared with me by Astroneer Discord moderator, Bunny. A lot of Astroneers can struggle with proper tether placement and have to stop and manually move a tether to get it to connect to the oxygen network. But you don't have to struggle. Instead, early on, pay attention to how many steps you are taking. Every 6th step, drop a tether and it will be properly spaced to connect every time. This works whether you are walking or sprinting, and by counting out your steps early on, you will quickly learn the cadence required for dropping tethers to ensure that they connect to the oxygen network each and every time. Drop a tether and you have completed the breathing space mission, so claim the small canister and 500 more bytes as a reward. Grab that canister and stow it on your backpack or on your terrain tool to prepare for the landfilling mission, which you will complete in just a moment. For now though, it is time to locate the first 2 resources you will need to gather for the resourcing mission: compound and resin. You may need to create a tether network to scout the area around your base, but both of these resources are typically located within a reasonable distance from your starting shelter. Compound appears as a round gray or silver deposit, while resin appears as yellow tubes that some say resemble macaroni and cheese. Once you have located resin or compound, you are ready to begin gathering those resources. So equip your terrain tool and start digging. The instructions for equipping your terrain tool and using it to dig are located on the very first page of the Astroneer Basics section of the Astropedia, just in case you need a quick review. And that brings us to our next pro tip. Some missions can be completed at the same time as others. As you gather resin and compound to complete the resourcing mission, you are also gathering soil, which will also complete the objective for the landfilling mission. You're collecting soil because you have a canister attached to your backpack. Without the canister, the soil you displaced would simply be eliminated. But by attaching a canister to your backpack, the soil fills the small canister instead. We'll talk more about that stored soil in a later course, but congratulations on knocking out 2 missions at once. Head back to the landing pad to open up the mission log and collect your rewards for the 2 missions you just completed. While you have the mission log open, check out one of the new missions, Printing Up. This one is fairly easy and you just collected everything you need to complete it. So head to your small printer and interact with it to open its control panel. If you have not yet interacted with the small printer, the medium printer should already be selected. Simply activate the green button to begin printing a medium printer. Creating a medium printer is not enough to complete the current mission, however. You must also slot it to a platform. Thankfully, you received 2 medium platform A as a mission reward from the resourcing mission. Unpack one of those platforms, then unpack the medium printer and place it on top of that platform. While you have technically completed the printing up mission, the medium printer won't function until you connect its platform to power. So grab one of the platform's power cable plugs and connect it to your small printer or one of the cable plugs on your shelter. You can now claim your rewards for the printing up mission. Congratulations, recruit! You are well on your way to a successful adventure as an Astroneer. Today, you learned about a very useful tool, the Astropedia, and you were introduced to missions and how they can help guide you in your journey. You also learned how to avoid suffocating, the basics of using your Turing tool to obtain resources, and how to use a printer. There's also some stuff in there about pudding for some reason. Next time in Astroneer Academy 102, you will learn how to identify the various hazards that pose a threat to Astroneers everywhere and can result in you being reprinted in the nearest shelter or shuttle. Before that though, we will hear from SDK Phoenix as he introduces the official Astroneer Wiki in a quick bite. Until then, I'm Brandon, reminding you to keep looking to the stars.